very good job of controlling them. You need to spray not only your rose beds, but the areas of lawn around it. Robbie Will, who manages the Antique Rose Emporium here, had a significant thrips problem a few years back. She sprayed her rose beds, and she still had thrips problems the next spring. The next year, in the winter months, she sprayed not only the beds, but all the grassy areas around, and she had virtually no problems with thrips from that point on. Now, thrips don't just affect roses. They affect gardenias, they affect gladiolus, sometimes you'll see them on pansies and petunias. So if you have a lot of thrips insect, that is one good reason to put out your beneficial nematodes midwinter to control them before they ever start hatching out.
Too late now?
It's too late to control them with the beneficial nematodes. The one thing about thrips is they hate garlic. And if you have thrips problems, spraying with one of the garlic sprays will go a long way toward controlling it. They simply don't like the taste of it. Garlic is never going to hurt your beneficial insects like ladybugs because they're not eating the plant. They don't get that garlic taste. But I don't know if thrips get garlicky flavored after they've been, if they get into the garlic. But yeah. If you have a thrips problem on your plants when the buds start coming out, start spraying with garlic. That's your best control. Years ago, they had a real bad thrips outbreak down at the botanical garden mid-season. I mean, it was ruining orchids, it was ruining roses, ruining everything else. And they sprayed with some pretty nasty chemicals without much success at all. I got their curator at that time a gallon of garlic spray, and he said it gave better control than any poison they had ever used trying to control the thrips. So that's just one thing you can do. I think thrips probably are the big bugaboo for most rose growers, because if you get a real bad infestation, just the blooms won't be very pretty. The thrips damage always shows up on the bigger, fuller flowers. You'll never really notice thrips damage on a little thin petal rose like a Lady Banks rose or like the knockouts. It'd be very rare to ever see thrips damage on that. But you would see thrips damage on Belinda's Dream or Mr. Lincoln or Don Juan. Somebody asked about, that's where you're going to have those damage really show up. Yes?
Do you have to try to spray again?
No, it is systemic. And that's the nice thing, is that garlic is taken up by the plant. When you're going to spray with garlic, you want to spray early in the morning, because we've talked before about the little openings that plants breathe through, which are called stomata. Those openings are much wider in the morning than they are any other time of the day. The earlier the better. And if you spray your garlic early in the day, your plants take the maximum amount of garlic up through those stomata, and that's when it will be most effective to control.
So you're saying put it on the dirt? And it comes
No,
up
spray the leaves, spray the foliage, try to coat the foliage as much as possible. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you use the garlic juice straight, or do you dilute it? Or?
You dilute it, and depending on whether you're making your own or whether you're buying it, you'll dilute it at slightly different rates. Garlic is good stuff for a lot of reasons, and it repels most sucking insects. It will also repel aphids pretty well. Spray with garlic, and you're probably not going to have any aphids. Yes?
My mother always told me don't water the leaves in the evening because it causes mold. Is that, or mildew? Whatever.
Well,
is that so?
It's a good idea, but it's not that the water causes anything. You have fungal spores floating through the air all the time. Every breath you take, you're probably breathing in 100 to 1,000 fungus spores. When you watch the pollen count, you'll see they say most of it's fungus spores. And if a fungus spore lands on a dry leaf, nothing happens. If a fungus spore lands in a drop of water on a leaf, it may germinate and grow and cause the fungus disease to appear. The number of fungal spores in the air goes up, 100-fold after dark. So if the foliage on plants is wet at night, it's going to be more susceptible. The plants are going to be more susceptible to all kinds of fungi. This is why we don't like to see people water the yard in the evening or, out spraying water on the foliage of your plants in the evenings is a bad idea because it increases the chance that you will get fungus diseases. But if you're spraying with things like, garlic, spraying with compost tea, things like that, coating the leaves, not likely going to be a problem because you've got so much beneficial fungus there the bad guys can't get started. And obviously, it's not a sure thing. If the foliage is wet, you're going to get, fungus disease, because how many times does it rain at night? And that's why, though, when we have a lot of rain, plants become more susceptible to fungus diseases.
We were only allowed to water in the middle of the night
Well, you could water up to 10 o'clock in the morning, and the best thing to
Anytime
do,
by hand, actually.
to 8. Yeah, well,
No,
I don't want
actually,
to send out in the middle of the night.
it's from 8 in the evening till 10 in the morning. When I lived in town, I just set the sprinkler system to come on at 5:30, and it was through by 10.
Does it matter if, again, watering by hand, I just took all the nozzles off and just had the hose straight into the root base.
I
I
just-
tried not to water the leaves.
Yeah, I leave the water breaker on and just lay the hose at the base of the plant.
Does it benefit the plant if you are actually wetting the leaves?
No.
Because I tried to avoid
No.
those.
A plant that has a compromised root system, yes, it would help to wet the stems and the leaves. But no, most plants, you're far better off to put the water on the ground.
Into the roots
Yeah.
directly.
Yes,
Yes, can you address rooting roses? What is the best time to root the
okay,
roses?
you want to, rose cuttings root pretty easily, but you don't want soft succulent new growth. You want mature wood, which means that probably the two best times to take a rose cutting is going to be late spring, when the new growth, you can see this growth is very soft and succulent. That would not root well at all. When you get the stiffer, heavier wood that you would have May or June, that will certainly root. Probably the best time is in the fall, October, November, when plants have, so to speak, hardened off for the winter months. You keep your cutting short, no more than about 3 inches long. I still find that perlite, the white volcanic material, is the best thing to root in. Does everybody know what perlite is? Okay.
Not vermiculite though.
No, vermiculite holds too much moisture.
Oh, okay.
And then there was a person that called me, lady called me on the radio one day and was asking about rooting geranium cuttings. And I gave her the full story, keep the cutting short, take the buds off, let them callus for a couple of days, and then root them in perlite. And the voice says, perlite? And I said, yes. She said, that's the first time I've ever heard of rooting anything in beer. Perlite, the white spongy material,
Okay.
yes.
All right, you said let them harden off for a couple of days so you...
No, that was on geraniums. Rose cuttings, put them in immediately.
Oh, okay.
And keep them in an area with bright light and no direct sun. And in this case, keep the perlite moist, maybe even spray a little bit of water over it periodically. Most of them will root in about 6 weeks.
How about that rooting compound, that white powder stuff?
The root tone, I've never found to be that effective. The best way, if you want to give them a better chance of rooting, put some seaweed in water, about half a cup of seaweed to a gallon of water. Soak your cuttings in that for 30 or 40 minutes, and all plants will root better if you do that.
How much seaweed?
About half a cup to a gallon of water.
And you can use it on your plants.
Yeah, and then you just spray it on or pour it on. It has many other uses, but I don't care whether you're rooting begonias or, pittosporum. Soaking them in the seaweed mix is going to make a big difference. Yes?
I have 2 rose climbers weaving in and out of the fence. They're looking really like not many leaves. They look really yucky.
They hated the drought last summer. Fertilize them, water them, mulch them, they'll be fine.
Okay. And don't cut anything back out.
Only the dead wood.
Chris might make a lot of.
You're going to be amazed what those roses are going to look like 6 weeks from now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Pine bark, mulch, that type of stuff, is that any good around here, or just stay away from it, or what?
Stay away from pine bark mulch. Pine bark is a byproduct of the paper industry, and there's nothing good in pine bark, and there's several bad things in pine bark. Pine bark is full of what we call phenols and terpenes, both of which are hard on plants. The only nice thing about pine bark is that it's cheap, and that's not a good reason to use it. If you want a mulch, just ground up hardwood mulch is excellent. The stuff you get free of charge out at the brush dump is 100 times better than the pine bark you buy at a discount house.
But what would be a good brand?
Really good mulch?
Yeah.
We like the Sylvan mulch by Ladybug. That happens to be the bag right there on closest to you.
And Ladybug what?
Sylvan, S-Y-L-V-A-N. They call it Sylvan mulch.
Okay.
That's the best bag mulch we found.
What do you like in bulk if you're doing
New Earth.
any of theirs?
They make a mulch. What they call their living mulch.
Okay, okay.
And that's what I would like of theirs. If you want to make your own mulch, go get ground up whatever and put about 1 part compost, about 5 or 6 parts mulch.